Hi, this is Jill. Welcome to the Life After podcast, where we talk about moving from surviving to thriving. This podcast is for anyone who wants to learn, grow, to get tips and tricks about how to inspire you to become the person you want to be, and get clarity about exactly what you want in life. This is also the place to be if you want to be lifted up and encouraged to go out and do great work in the world. What has happened in your past does not have to define who you are today or who you become in the future. And in fact, what has happened to you in the past should, can, and will shape who you want to be. This podcast is also about bringing people together. It's about connecting all of you, helping you identify where you are in your process. What do you need to feel more engaged and alive in your life? More connected to the people in your circle? This is a community of those who are looking to improve our world in the way that is most meaningful to them. Why is this important? Because how we show up really matters. Bringing more service, kindness, and love into the world is critical right now. Thank you so much for joining us today. I have a very special guest with us. This is my very first interview for the podcast Life After, from Surviving to Thriving. And I'm so fortunate and happy to have Courtney Wittenberg here with me. She is a staff member at Turning Pointe. And Courtney, tell us a little bit about yourself.
So, like you said, my name is Courtney Wittenberg. I am a mother of 3 girls, and I have 1 stepson as well. I am originally from California. I moved to Washington in 2018. I work full-time as a community engagement specialist at our local DV shelter, Turning Pointe Survivor Advocacy Center. And that's what my life consists of, is being a mother and working. Yeah. I love it.
Well, for our audience out there, Courtney is an incredible asset to Turning Pointe. They are so lucky. We are so lucky to have you. And so thank you for the amazing job you do there. So knowing that the podcast is all about mindset and making positive change in your life, what would be kind of the first thing that you think of that's happened in your life that's applicable to those topics?
I struggled with a drug addiction for many years. I had already had my 15-year-old when I was 17. So, and then shortly, a few years after I had her, I started falling deeper and deeper into my addiction. And so my sister ended up tell me, like, hey, this is life or death. Like, you need to start over somewhere. And she had already moved to Washington. So I decided to just up and relocate here in March 2018 because I knew that I could not keep living that lifestyle. Like, I was slowly killing myself every day, and came into there's a couple situations where I should have been dead, so it was like, this was like my second chance. And right there was like the motivation right there, just by moving here. And yes, I was sick, and yes, I had low self-esteem and all that, but that's how I started off here. And then within a year got a job, and and then just getting back into the workforce, like, was very helpful. Did some counseling. And that's what, somewhat started the healing journey at that point. I made a lot of different changes in my lifestyle, and I wasn't using all that bad stuff anymore, but I still at that point had a ton of stuff to work on internally.
So what do you think was really meaningful in your ability to make the changes in your life?
Okay, so for sure is a support system. Even if you don't have a huge group of people, even if you just have one single person that you can confide in, and you could tell them your deepest, darkest desires, and like, you need that accountability. I needed that accountability. And then talking to other people in recovery, like that is so important because, they have a saying, secrets keep you sick. And that's like in the NA community, that's what they say, but it's the truth, like, of course you don't want to tell everybody everything, but you need a safe person or safe people to talk over your thoughts and your struggles with. That helped me, like if I were to be having like a bad thought in the very beginning, because obviously years of drug use and then like they're everywhere, but it was smart that I stuck, like specifically my sister, I would hang out with her, or she would take me places. I didn't have a car at the time. I had to do that because if I would have just started disassociating with anybody who was walking on the street, I would have found that stuff because it's everywhere.
Right.
So like the support system or support circle is very, very important. And as humans, we need relationships. Like that's just how we're built.
And so you talked a little bit about self-esteem, and yes. When I teach at Turning Point, we talk a lot about, your mindset and what goes on in your brain, the messages you give yourself. So what were one or two of the things that you did that you found effective to shift your self-esteem as you came out of the addiction and feel like you've been through your healing process?
I should probably start off by saying I am currently still in my healing process.
Well, I think it's a lifelong thing, right? When you've gone through trauma and or addiction, it's something that you are aware of, and your ability to kind of slip back all the time, right? Yes. So it's particularly for anybody out there listening, no matter where you are in this stage of your journey, you're always going to be mindful of those messages that you're sending yourself and how you are dealing with the inevitable challenges that pop up in life, right? We make choices. So I can totally appreciate that you're mid-journey. That's kind of the way it goes. So back to, what would you say is one or two things that kind of really helped you stay focused on improving your self-esteem to make changes? Okay, so being selfish for one, not like selfish with material things, but like selfish with like what are Courtney's needs? What makes Courtney happy? So so the first year that I was even here, I hadn't started at Turning Point just yet. But like right before I'm 6 months pregnant and I meet a guy, which I wasn't even looking, was not even looking because, obviously I'm trying to like heal these generational curses and all this stuff I put myself through. I should have been selfish at that point because for myself, for him, for just the whole situation, I was not ready to jump into a relationship that soon, and I guess that is an old behavior when you are in addiction, you're, like needing somebody's approval or like it feels good to have somebody, want you. And so that was a bit of a distraction for me as well. And I started working and, things were wonderful. But I still wasn't fully focusing on myself. So it's being selfish and figuring out what I wanted before making any big decisions. Yeah, that's such an important thing to thank you for being really transparent about that, because I think so many people, especially when we're parents, we have a tendency to not prioritize ourselves over the needs of our kids or our other loved ones in our lives. And that old adage about you got to put your face mask on first before you can help anybody else is so, so true. And so I'm really glad you brought that up as one of the ways that you shifted your mindset and that you utilized to make change in your life, because I think it's a really valid point. Yes. Any other pieces in terms of specifically shifting your mindset into changing your self-esteem and how you viewed yourself and showed up in the world?
So another thing that is important to me and helps my self-esteem and also just gives me hope and peace is my faith. And I know this isn't a faith podcast or anything, but that is very helpful to me to find that, like if you have a higher power or a spirituality, whatever you believe in, digging into that it's made me feel great. And I've found a few more people with the same goals. Here we go. This is what I'm talking about. Okay. My mind, I'm trying to get all my thoughts together. People with the same goals and the same values. And like, that is so important because who we surround ourselves with, like, what is the saying where,
well, there's the birds of a feather flock together. There's that one, but there's also that old kind of self-help idea of the top 5 people that you spend the most amount of time with, or who you're going to be like, who you're most likely to be like. So to be really aware of the people that you spend your time with and that you are close to.
Exactly. So making sure that I am, not surrounding myself with people who aren't, who I'm not who are not going to, influence me in a positive way, because, that's just going to bring down my self-esteem, but also, distract me on, the path that I'm going on, whether that be personally or professionally. It's very, very important who you surround yourself with. Right. And it really finding peace.
Really goes into your earlier point about having support, right? So finding people that when you're building that support team, finding people that are going to be, feel like a positive influence.
Yes.
And move you in the direction you want to go.
Absolutely.
What are some of the changes in your life that you're most proud of that you've done?
Okay, so I'm very proud of my finance. Okay, so my health is really important because obviously I put my body through some really bad stuff for many years, and so that was a big priority once I started working and I had dental insurance, was to start, fixing the damage I did to my teeth, going to normal doctor's appointments and seeing a therapist, seeing a specialist, and it's just, that right there feels good. When you're taking care of yourself, it feels good. So that I'm very proud of that, even though that's something that, everybody should do. But when you get so caught up with life or an addiction or just life in general, sometimes you neglect yourself.
Yeah. So, it goes back to making yourself a priority too.
Yes. And then the other thing was debt. So I had, quite a bit of debt, just, random credit cards, medical bills, just whatever. I started slowly paying them off, even if it was just $20 a month, $50 a month. And then I was using, the Credit Karma app, which is a free app. I'm not sponsored by them, but I freaking like Credit Karma. I don't fall for any of their ads or anything, but it's so helpful to see when something new popped up and dang, now your credit score plummeted again, so I really utilize that. and building your credit, later on helps you, which we can get into that in a little bit, but, helps you get to your next step when you have better credit. So starting at Turning Point in 2019, I had a 520 credit score. And, up until a month ago, it was 743,
Wow.
so, and that's just being strategic and just doing little bits at a time, disputing old medical bills, and I don't have financial freedom, just knowing that that's not like hanging over my head or weighing me down, that I have thousands and thousands, and I'm more reliable to, for say a car loan or a house loan or whatever I wanted. It just feels good to not have that debt. so
Right.
My health and the debt, and I'm really proud of my, my position at my workplace. I'm proud of just overall what our organization does in the community. So that's those three things. And of course, being a real mom this time around after screwing up with my she's 15 now. She lived with my mom. Once she hit 6 years old, I let her go live with my mom, and then I got worse after that. And so that, so now with the little ones, and then of course her too. So motherhood is like being a good example for my children, and having them see me happy and just loving life like that. I'm very proud of that too, to give them a peaceful life, which it wasn't always like that for even the little ones.
Yeah, that's really, really huge, particularly with the work that we both do. Is this idea of making generational change, stopping the cycles, giving our kids an opportunity to see life differently.
Yes.
And the ripple effect of how our behavior impacts what they will do and see and experience in their own lifetimes, and the effort that you have put in, the how that will change the course of their lives.
Yes.
Definitely something to be proud of.
And then for those who may be in a unhealthy relationship, have a family with a partner, and you guys don't have the healthiest situation, I could say that it's not too late. I mean, I can't go into too much detail right now, but I'd love to update you guys in a year, come back on and let you know what's going on. But for now, I just want to say, when I noticed that my kids were, used to, even not even physical. I mean, either way, any type of abuse is unhealthy. But when your little kids are used to seeing and hearing, violent talk and behavior,
that it's just not an environment you want them to be in.
It's not, and it took me a while to realize this is not worth it, and you could still have that love there, but you have to protect your peace and protect your children's peace, and I didn't want to continue to have them hear these things. And so we're in a different household right now, but
right.
And I can go into more detail later on, but either way,
you'll do that.
It's possible to get yourself, even if you start, seeing that, oh shoot, I'm falling back into these old behaviors, not even meaning to, and it's weighing on your own health and the overall health of your family. There's ways to make changes. There's ways to strategically get to a different spot,
right,
and still co-parent and communicate, in a respectful manner, which It's not
Well,
always it's not always a two-way street, though.
It's not always easy. That's definitely the case. And I think it's so important that people understand that the process that you're talking about is making change in incremental steps, right? You don't make change. It is possible to make change like a light switch. It's on, it's off. You kind of have what Oprah used to call aha moments, right? The reality is, though, for the vast majority of us, when you're in a situation, be it your experience with addiction or being in an unhealthy relationship or an unhealthy household, no matter whether that's a parent to a child, an intimate partner, it could be a roommate. We can have unhealthy relationships that shows up in lots of different ways because we're human, right? And that can be impacted by how we make decisions. And so it's not so easy as to just say, oh, I'm going to change it all, right? There's so many, as you know, from working at Turning Point, there are so many myths out there about why people stay in unhealthy relationships, and that it's just so easy. And it's not. We have to take those incremental or baby steps, every single step, to move us forward and make that change. And sometimes that means 2 steps forward and 1 step back. That's just the reality. Yeah,
exactly. And just in life in general, celebrating those small victories. Like, I know, like, we're not always going to hit every single goal, but when you do, it's like, be ecstatic about it, check it off, like handwrite all your goals out and check it off. Like, that is writing my goals out. That's another one. Writing my goals and certain thoughts, and like, I really like doing that. And we've done that at a couple of different staff meetings where we're writing out our values or our goals or making vision boards. And it's nice to see it written out, and then like, I did that.
Well, and you can revisit it until as you're in the process of getting there, right? That's one of the things that's so fantastic about taking an internal process of trying to accomplish a goal and putting it on paper or putting it on a vision board or whatever works for you, is to know that you have this thing and you can just keep taking those steps to get you there. And absolutely, 100%, we could all practice this, me included, is celebrating more, when we have our wins and when we hit those goals, especially the kind of the sub goals, the pieces along the way that we hit. So important to celebrate those and keep us motivated and moving forward.
Yes.
So can you give us any specific tips on, you've given us tons of tips. Can you give us any additional tips on how you actually went about making these changes? You've talked about having a support system in place and following your faith and who you surround yourself with. Anything else that you would add for how you have successfully been able to do those things?
So I would say a huge thing is my workplace. I like, right here, I have a boss and board members who have been extremely supportive of me since day one, and over all of our staff, and having a place where they want you to succeed, and they give you every opportunity to for self-development and encouraging along the way. Like, we are at work more than we're at home for most people who work full-time. Like, this is where we're at. I'm here right now, actually. And so it is a big deal to have a workplace where you are feeling fulfilled. So like, I mean, I can't say I wouldn't have made it this far if I didn't work at Turning Point, but I truly, truly believe that working here has played a huge role in in my development, personally and professionally.
Well, you've been promoted several times.
Well, yes, and that's very exciting. I started as volunteer receptionist in beginning of 2019 and have worked my way up, and I truly love it here. But I've had few other jobs where I really I just wasn't happy. And I know we can't always be picky and choosy. Like, if you're really, only have a few options, like, stick it out until you could find something that really, really you would enjoy. Then yes, you got to do what you got to do. But when you do find a spot that just gives you meaning, like, I get pumped when I'm like out talking about, our mission and what I'm fundraising for, and just like it's exciting and rewarding to help a very important cause. So
I love so much that all of the things that you've talked about are related, right? That you've used this theme of leaning into people and being aware of the people you spend your time with and getting support and increasing your self-esteem. That all of those things have kind of linked together to allow you to move forward, knowing who you are, embracing your faith, and that has brought you to this place over the course of the last 5 years that is completely different than where you started when you first moved up here. And I think it's so valuable for people to see that, yes, it takes time. Yes, you need some intention. You've done some work to think about what your values are and what your goals are. And so, there's some intent and effort put in there. And yet, look at how far you've come in 5 years, how much of your life has changed, and that you are actively in the process of creating exactly the life that you want for you and the girls. And that's so impressive. And it's so important for people to hear and to have examples of that they can do it too.
Yes.
I really, really appreciate you sharing. Is there anything else as we're wrapping up the episode? Is there anything else that you'd like listeners to know?
I just want to talk about the debt thing just a tiny bit more, just Absolutely. Because when I wanted to, move households, if I hadn't been working on that debt for the past few years before that, I wouldn't. It's hard to get, as you guys know, it is hard to get, into a new place or get a car loan if you are needing a new car. Like, you need credit. It's just that way. Unless you have all the cash on you, credit is important. So, that's a huge thing to think about if you're even if you have like a 5-year plan or longer to move, or just to have a backup plan. You want to make sure you don't have a bunch of debt weighing you down.
And I just want to reiterate that you said earlier in the episode that there were times that you were just moving yourself forward $20 at a time.
Yes.
Right. Again, it's one of those things where people think, oh, I don't have the $5,000 to pay off my debt, I'm never going to get there. But at $20, $15, $30, small increments that you're really consistently putting the effort in to pay that amount down, it pays off.
Yes. And a lot of people do not know this. I've told so many of my coworkers and other people, you can dispute those charges. I've probably done like 8 different ones that were like just random medical bill or some other random bill that was like, if it's over 7 years, you can dispute it. And I did it all through Credit Karma again. Yeah. But it's like, if you could see all those lines of credit, like, that's a great way. I mean, if they say no, they say no. It's not a big deal. Just try to dispute those things. It's totally worth it.
Or negotiate for a lower amount, but I think that brings up a really good point, that we haven't really touched on, and we'll just do so briefly, which is you got to sometimes have the hard conversations in order to move yourself forward in life. You sometimes,
Yes.
you know that you've got to, there's some things that are hard that we don't want to do. And we have some resistance behind that. And so that's especially where the baby steps come into it, because
Yes.
sometimes it's we have to take the tiniest action, right? That's all we can muster. And when we can do that, we get some momentum and it improves our motivation. So
Yes.
even if it's $5 or $10 at a time, it's picking up the phone and saying, I got this bill, but it's too high. Will you bring it down? Will you cut it in half, right? There are always opportunities out there, both financially and in non-financial ways, that we can really move ourselves forward and make changes in our lives. Big changes. You've made big changes in 5 years.
Thank you. And I also standards. So I wrote that down. I have very low standards for many years, and as I'm growing over these last few years, I have a way more clear picture of what I want for my life, for my kids' life, my goals, of course, but it's okay to have high standards. Like even if you don't have the greatest self-esteem and you don't feel like you're good enough and all that crap, like we still need to set our standards way up here when it comes to relationships or the people anytime, not even just love relationships, anybody that we invite into our life, because again, like we were saying, you could be influenced and, you are who you hang out with. And so have high standards. If you start noticing red flags, like, just please try not to ignore them. I've done a lot better now. I did make my fair share of mistakes.
It's practice. We get to practice.
Yes, because it really, now I know, like, hey, is this going to help me get from this point to this point? Like, do we have the same values? Like, do I even want this person as a friend? Like, you could still be courteous and cordial, when you see each other in public. But like, I don't know, just having those high standards, but also, just being respectful to those around you, spreading, just spread. It all starts with a smile, like, I just try to make the best out of things. I do have, my times where I'm a little down, but I feel like when you just like force yourself to just pick up and be like, hey, I know this sucks, but there's this, and this that are going great. And, just get yourself in that mindset of like, I can do this. Like, I've done this, and this, and don't think about all the things you haven't done or all the negative things. So yeah, just mindset, positive mindset as much as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. That the standards really can so often be linked when we have a lower self-esteem. We have lower standards. And as we start to build our self-esteem and have evidence of successes of things that we've done in our past, it is absolutely possible to raise those standards, and it changes your life. Yes. It changes your life when you raise your standards. And I think so often we're taught to just accept, right? And to not challenge those standards, or even when you have really high standards or higher expectations for your behavior or for how people treat you, it's easy to get criticized for that. So it's easy to see how we're conditioned to lower our standards. To your point, though, you can accomplish so much more when you're willing to maintain that and know your value and worth and increase your self-esteem precisely by keeping that positive mindset, by knowing what you can do and what you have done and where you have made goals. So, all right, as we wrap up, this is the time where we get to do shameless plugs. So is there anything that you would like to, any event or program or anything that you're doing at work that you'd like to put out a shameless plug for?
Oh yes, this is right up my alley. Okay. Okay, so if you are anywhere near Mason County, I want to talk about Turning Point Survivor Advocacy Center, my workplace. We are a local domestic violence shelter. We have a 56-bed shelter. We help survivors of domestic violence, sexual assault, and their children and pets. So we have one huge event coming up this November, on November 11th. This is our biggest annual fundraiser. Power of the Purse, Power to Help, Power to Heal. We are still looking for a few more sponsors, but tickets are on sale now, and we could, if you don't mind, if we, link.
I'll put all the details in the show notes. Yeah,
okay.
Absolutely. Thank you.
So yeah, this is just, it's a great time. This event brings in anywhere from 200 to 250 people. This year we have a even bigger space at Little Creek Event Center, so we're looking at probably around 350 people. Dinner, live auction, silent auction. If you've never been, then you are missing out, because it is a really good time.
It's a great evening out for sure.
Yes, and it's for an amazing cause. There's always, a very special guest speaker who, has the lived experience or their previous client, and it's just a great way for people to really find out like what we're about and what we're doing and what our future plans are. This is the event to go to for all these reasons. So,
and I'm just going to add, I'm going to add to your shameless plug by saying, for those of you that aren't in Mason County, Turning Point helps people from all over the state. We are often the shelter where advocates get phone calls that say, we've reached out to this shelter or that shelter or this place, and we've gotten no's, they're full. Can you help us? And we go out of our way to say yes to people. So we have, I think 11% of our clientele comes from Thurston County. We've got, I don't know what the percentage is from Kitsap County, but we've got people that come in from Tacoma, from Pierce County, from King County, from all over the state, as well as we've also had clients that have come in from out of state, Alaska, Texas, Florida. So know that even if you're not in Mason County, we'd absolutely love to have you jaunt on down here for the evening. It is at Little Creek Casino, so you can get a room, and we do have room rates. You can also donate to the silent auction or become a sponsor, even if you can't make it in person. So I'm going to add to your plug.
Yes. Thank you.
Courtney, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate, I'm so grateful that you're my first guest, and I just thank you so much for all of your words of wisdom, for being so transparent and open about what you've been through and the changes that you've made. It's going to make a difference in the life or lives of our listeners. So thank you so much.
Thank you for asking me to be on. I really feel honored. This is like a big deal to me. This is
good.
Huge.
Good. Well, I'm happy that's the case. All right. Please reach out to me if you would like some additional support, would like me to come speak to your organization, would like to have your school book me to speak to students, would like to be a guest on the show, or have any feedback you'd like to share. I appreciate you sharing these episodes. This podcast is a powerful resource for anyone that is looking to make changes in their lives. So please, please, please help me grow by sharing, liking, and subscribing. There will be new episodes on the second and fourth Wednesday every month. I promise that every episode I'm going to show up and be real to help support you in your individual journey. Please see how to connect with me in the show notes or go to my website at locatecoaching.com. I hope you have a fantastic day, and I'll see you soon.